Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you try, something always seems to be missing? Why anxiety insists on stealing your peace, even when you try to keep everything under control? I want to tell you something important. The secret to getting everything you're looking for is not to do more, but to rest. Yes, rest. But how is it possible to rest in the midst of so many challenges? What does it mean to really trust the Father? And how can it completely change your life? Today I want to share with you a simple and powerful way to bring peace to your heart and open the doors to true abundance. Stay with me to the end, because this message could be just what you need to transform the way you live and find the abundance that is already available to you. Do you know that fatigue that seems to come from within? No matter how hard you try, your mind never shuts off. Your heart is always restless, and the weight of everyday life seems to increase with every step you take. It's as if you're carrying a burden that was never meant to be carried by your own strength. Now let me ask you, have you ever considered that perhaps this burden exists because you haven't yet surrendered everything to the Father? Resting in God is not inertia or passivity. It is a deep state of trust, an unshakable certainty that no matter what the circumstances, you are supported by something far greater than any difficulty. Many believe that to trust is to fail to act, but true rest is an act of dynamic faith. You do what you can, knowing that the Father takes care of all that is beyond your strength. When I said that the Father knows what you need before you even ask, I was showing that life is not meant to be a constant solitary effort. Imagine a bird that flies without fear of tomorrow, or a flower that grows without longing for rain. Both trust in the perfect order of creation. So too is trust in the Father, a surrender that is not blind, but full of understanding of His loving nature. I know it's not easy to rest. You may be thinking of all the reasons why you must keep fighting: bills to pay, important decisions to make, family challenges. But ask yourself, has this worry made a difference? Or does anxiety only prolong suffering? Resting in God is a daily decision in which you consciously choose to let go of what you cannot control. When you choose this surrender, something extraordinary happens. The weight that seemed unbearable before dissolves as you realize that you were never alone. In that moment, you begin to see how trust transforms not only your mind, but the reality around you. And as you allow this truth to transform your vision, you will naturally begin to see the barriers that keep you from this full trust. There is a sound that inhabits the human heart, almost imperceptible but constant. It's that feeling of restlessness, like a shadow hanging over your thoughts. This is fear, this silent force that holds you in its grip. But why are we so resistant to letting go? Why do we insist on carrying the world on our backs, even as it crushes us? The root of fear is fear. Fear that something will go wrong, that we won't be able to do it, or even that God won't do what we expect. These thoughts intertwine and create a web that traps us, convincing us that holding on to control is the only way to guarantee safety. But this is just an illusion, because true security has never depended on us, but on the one who sustains the entire universe. Fear is often fueled by the desire to predict the future, to have all the answers before we act. It's as if we want to guarantee that everything will be under control before we trust. But life doesn't work that way. The Father invites us to live in the now, to surrender our worries and trust that He is faithful to provide every step at the right time. I see how challenging this is, especially in this day and age when everything seems urgent and immediate. The messages you receive daily tell you to run faster, produce more, achieve more. But ask yourself, has this really brought you peace? Or has it just added weight to your shoulders? Control, no matter how secure it may seem, can never give you the true peace that comes only from resting in God. Letting go of control is not an act of weakness, but an act of courage. It's saying, I know I can't do it alone, but I trust in the one who can do all things. When you begin to recognize these patterns of fear and how they keep you from peace, you take the first step toward something greater. And by understanding that you do not have to carry alone what was meant to be delivered, you make room for something new and transformative to happen. This understanding naturally leads to the next consideration. What really happens when you let go of control? What changes in your life and around you when you choose to fully trust and rest? Imagine for a moment that you are holding on to something so tightly that your hands begin to hurt. Now imagine the relief you would feel if you let go, if you allowed the weight to be carried by someone whose strength and power is infinitely greater than your own. This is exactly what happens when you let go of control and trust the Father. Heaven begins to act. Letting go of control is not giving up, but making room for God to manifest His purpose. If you insist on carrying everything yourself, it's like blocking the blessings that have already been prepared for you. By surrendering your worries, you allow divine wisdom to operate freely, aligning circumstances in ways you could never imagine or accomplish on your own. I know that many find it hard to believe that something as simple as trust can have such profound results. But look at the stories of transformation all around you. How often have you heard of someone who, by letting go of fear and trusting in God, has seen doors open and seemingly impossible problems solved? This is no coincidence. It is the power of the Father at work, responding to faith that chooses to rest. Maybe you're afraid that if you let go of control, things will turn out the way you imagined. But here's the truth. The Father's plans are always bigger and better than ours. He sees what you can't see, knows paths you didn't even know existed, and is always working for your good, even when it doesn't seem like it. When you let go of control, not only does the sky move, but your heart is transformed. Fear begins to give way to peace, and you discover that you can live easily, even in the midst of challenges. And with that peace comes a new realization that the Father not only cares for you, but also provides abundantly and generously all that you need. This brings us to the next truth I would like to share with you. Have you ever stopped to think about how nature works in perfect harmony? Birds don't sow, but they find food. Flowers don't weave, yet they are clothed in incomparable beauty. The same God who takes care of every detail in creation is the same God who promises to take care of you. Abundance is already available, but to receive it, you must learn to trust. Receiving is not just a passive act, but an attitude of the heart. It's recognizing that your needs will not be ignored by the Father. Often we are so busy trying to solve everything ourselves that we block the blessings that are already available to us. Surrender paves the way for this abundance because it takes us out of the place of worry and positions us in a place of trust. When you choose to trust, you are declaring that you believe in the Father's unconditional love. He doesn't withhold what is good for you, but desires to give beyond what you can ask or imagine. This truth changes the way you see your challenges. What once seemed like scarcity now becomes an opportunity to see divine provision working in unexpected ways. But what is this abundance? It's not just material goods, but a life of abundance in all areas. It's finding peace in the midst of the storm, joy even in difficult times, and an unshakable confidence that you are never alone. When you allow God to take care of you, you discover that He not only provides what you need, but He does so generously. This abundance is not reserved for the few, but is available to all who choose to rest in the Father. When you realize this, you are invited to reflect on what is preventing you from experiencing this abundance. Often it's the inner barriers that keep us stuck, especially those created by the ego. There's a voice inside of you that insists on saying, "I have to control this. No one is going to do it for me." This is the voice of the ego trying to convince us that we are enough on our own. But the ego isn't looking for real security. It's looking for control. And that control, deep down, is a false protection that only distances us from peace and trust in the Father. The ego would have us believe that letting go of control is weakness, but in fact it's quite the opposite. True power lies in recognizing our limitations and trusting in the limitless. How often does pride prevent us from asking for help, even when we know we can't go far alone? It is this resistance that keeps us trapped in cycles of fear and frustration. But where does this need for control come from? It's often the result of old fears, experiences that have left their mark and taught us not to depend on anyone. The ego builds barriers to protect us, but these barriers also isolate us. They create a distance between us and the loving care of the Father, who never wanted us to face life alone. The strange thing is that the more we try to control, the more we realize that control is an illusion. Life is uncertain, and no amount of human planning can guarantee the results we seek. Letting go of control is not surrendering to disorder, but allowing divine love to lead the way. It is saying, I trust in the one who sees beyond what my eyes can reach. As you begin to let go of this false security, a new horizon reveals itself. You realize that true peace does not depend on control, but on trust. And in letting go of the ego, you discover a deeper connection to the Father, who has always been ready to guide your every step. It is in this surrender that we begin to experience inner peace, something so powerful that it transforms everything around us. The peace you seek is not in external circumstances but within you. It is the natural result of an unwavering trust in the Father, a certainty that whatever happens, you are safe in His hands. This peace is not just a state of mind, it is a path to a fulfilling life, free from the weight of worry and fear. Many seek peace in achievements, possessions, or relationships, but soon realize that these things are fleeting. True peace comes not from what you have, but from who you are when you are in harmony with the divine. It is not destroyed by the storms of life because it doesn't depend on them to exist. It's like a river that keeps flowing even when the world around it seems to be in chaos. This peace does not mean the absence of challenges, but a new way of facing them. When you rest in the Father, problems don't disappear, but they lose their power to steal your joy and confidence. You begin to see difficulties as opportunities to grow, to trust more deeply, and to experience divine care in ways you never imagined. The secret to accessing this peace is surrender. When you stop resisting and accept the present moment as part of a larger plan, something inside you adjusts. Anxiety gives way to serenity, and you discover that inner peace is a force that sustains you even on the most difficult days. It is this power that allows you to live lightly, even while carrying responsibility. And as you experience this peace, you realize that it is the foundation for a fulfilling life. It opens the way to joy, abundance, and a deeper connection with the Father. But this surrender also begins with practical steps, small daily choices that help you trust more and more. Trusting the Father is not something that happens all at once. It is built through small daily choices, through simple gestures that together create a life rooted in faith. You may ask yourself, but how can I trust when what I see around me seems so uncertain? The answer lies in starting with what is within your grasp and allowing the divine to take care of what lies beyond. One practical way to cultivate this trust is to begin the day by surrendering your worries to the Father. Before you even get out of bed, pause. Say, Father, I trust in you. Take care of this day, guide my steps, and calm my heart. This simple act of surrender is like opening a door for peace to enter and stay with you throughout the day. Another powerful practice is to consciously choose not to worry about what you can't control. When anxiety arises, ask yourself, can I solve this right now? If the answer is no, surrender. Trust that time and the wisdom of the Father are working in your favor. And remember, letting go is not negligence, but an act of courage that demonstrates faith in something greater. Also, seek moments of stillness. In the midst of the rush, take a few minutes to breathe, to reflect, and to remember that you are not alone. These moments, however brief, renew your spirit and help you stay connected to the divine. It is in silence that you will often hear the answer you are seeking. Finally, celebrate the small victories. When something you've given to the Father is resolved, recognize it as a testimony to God's faithfulness. Each time you trust and see the Father's provision in action, your faith is strengthened, making it easier to let go of control in the next situation. These small steps are the beginning of a journey of transformation. As you practice this surrender, you begin to see how perfectly the Father takes care of everything. And when that happens, you begin to understand the lessons I have shared about surrender and trust. When I talked about the kingdom of heaven, I wanted to show that it is not a distant place, but a reality that can be experienced here and now. This reality begins with true surrender, which is trusting the Father without reservation, believing that everything is under His perfect care. It is not a partial surrender based on fear, but a total surrender born of the certainty that you are loved and sustained by something greater. True surrender is not passive. It requires courage and faith. People have often asked, "How can I be sure that God is really taking care of me?" And I would tell them that the Father knows your needs before you express them. He knows what's best, even when you don't understand the way you're being led. This unwavering trust is the heart of surrender. When I trusted the Father completely, I saw miracles happen. But these miracles were not just supernatural acts. They were also the transformations that took place within people. By letting go of fear and embracing trust, they experienced freedom, healing, and abundance. True surrender opens the space for divine power to manifest in your life in ways that transcend human logic. Surrender doesn't mean ignoring challenges. On the contrary, it means recognizing that however difficult they may be, you're not facing them alone. It's like a child holding onto his father's hand as he crosses a busy street. This trust allows you to move forward without hesitation, knowing that you are safe, even when the path seems uncertain. This surrender not only transforms your life, but also connects you to inner peace and divine provision. It's a journey that, once begun, brings a new perception of how the Father acts abundantly and generously. As you let go of worry and choose to trust the Father, something surprising happens. You begin to notice the abundance around you. This abundance is not limited to material goods, but manifests itself in many ways, in opportunities, in restored relationships, and even in the serenity that takes over your heart. This is the miracle of detachment. By letting go of control, you create space for the divine to act. Detachment doesn't mean neglecting or abandoning responsibility, but rather freeing yourself from the burden of trying to solve everything on your own. When you release to the Father what is beyond your reach, you allow divine provision to work in your life. And that provision is not limited. It flows generously, meeting your needs and often going beyond what you can imagine. Remember the times I mentioned that the Father clothes the lilies of the field and feeds the birds of the air. These examples are more than metaphors. They illustrate the perfect order of creation in which nothing is forgotten. You too are part of that order. If the Father cares for the smallest creatures, how much more will He do for you, who are so precious? Detachment also invites you to change your perception. Often we are so focused on what is missing that we don't see what has already been provided. When you let go of control, you begin to notice the blessings that have always been there, but that fear and anxiety have hidden from your view. This realization alone is transformative. And it is this transformation that shows us something even greater. By living in detachment, you not only experience provision, but you begin to live in gratitude. This gratitude is the gateway to an abundant life, a life in which surrender to the Father becomes natural and constant. When you choose to rest in the Father, something extraordinary happens. Life stops being an exhausting race and becomes a natural flow of peace and trust. Resting doesn't mean giving up or stopping, but living with the assurance that divine love is taking care of every detail. It's a life guided not by fear or anxiety, but by a heart full of gratitude. Gratitude, in fact, is the natural response of those who recognize the Father's care in all things. When you rest, you realize that even in difficult times there is a provision, a learning experience, something being adjusted for your good. This recognition changes your perspective, shifting the focus from what is lacking to what is already given, and this multiplies the sense of abundance. Living this way also connects you more deeply with others. As you experience the peace of trust, your words and actions begin to reflect that peace. You become a channel of love and hope to those around you. Your life, once marked by the weight of worry, now radiates lightness, inspiring others to seek the same trust in the Father. This abundance doesn't mean the absence of challenges, but a new way of facing them. It is knowing that no matter what the circumstances, you have everything you need because you are sustained by the one who never fails. It's living each day with an open heart, ready to receive and give, recognizing that all that comes from the Father is good and perfect. And so rest becomes a way of life, a daily choice that transforms not only how you feel, but who you are. This transformation is the ultimate invitation to trust, to let go, to live in peace, and to allow your life to be a living testimony of the Father's loving care. May you carry this truth in your heart, and each day discover the peace that dwells within you. May your path be illuminated, and your life overflow with love and abundance.